This is a clouds weather alert. Meteorologist Casey Cloud breaking back in here this Tuesday evening. We're tracking a flash flood warning now for parts of the area, parts of Lowndes County involved in this until 9:45 p.m. We were talking about there being a little bit of a flash flooding risk. I mean, even parts of our area, 2 out of 4 risk now. Over toward Lowndes County here, I'll kind of show it to you on the overall hydrology mode. That risk over that way had been a little bit less, more that 1 out of 4, but things that's coming together here in the meteorological pattern sometimes, still some of that risk there. And now we're seeing a flash flood warning in place. See the risk in terms of the overall system here, the Barron system telling me maybe a little bit more north of our area with it. But according to the, warning here, we do have to be vigilant around Hahira in toward Lowndes County. So just got to be mindful of that. You see parts of Lowndes County under the warning, also parts of Cook and Berry, and that's north of our area there. But again, as we get toward parts of Lowndes County, that's our focus right now with this flash flood warning here, a potential for, at least in a few spots there, some rapid water rise concern right around I-75 there maybe, maybe more likely on some of the roads just off the interstate. Sometimes the interstate be a little more elevated, a little bit more easy to maneuver here. But we'll go ahead and loop this over the past hour, and you'll be able to see that we've had the heavy rain kind of just hanging around there, kind of just, meandering around here, unfortunately, as we're seeing things come together in the weather picture. So, again, Northern Lowndes County here in our area, a flash flood warning until 9:45 p.m. as we're looking, it does, again, include areas up toward Adele and Cecil and Fellowship, and areas there even in toward the new Lois community. That's, again, north of area, though, but our area includes areas like Hahira, as well. As I get on in here, we're going to get down to street level for you. You can see around Church Street there, Main Street, areas further on over there, Skipper Bridge Road. Again, a flash flood warning Franklinville there under this as well in Northern Lowndes County. So got to really be mindful. Let's see the last hour in terms of, what the radar's estimating here in some of these different spots. We'll go through between some of the different modes. I know the Barron mode is telling us here some spots getting over 2 inches in just 1 hour. But as we go ahead and go on in here, we'll go ahead and go into the last 3 hours, maybe over 4 inches of rain. And, that's in one spot. If I go in even tighter, you're seeing maybe closer to 5 inches here in Northern Lowndes County. This is north of Valdosta here where the focus of this is because, in Valdosta proper, I mean, they've had a good bit of rain too. There's a flood advisory, but it's more like 2.5 inches in between, not much at all. I know that current scan of radar showing, a lot less rain toward Valdosta than up toward Hahira there in the area in Northern Lowndes County along the I-75 corridor. So let's go ahead and show you here, looking again, 4.7 inches. Let me read off that statement from the Weather Service as we get some of these updates in with the estimates here. Again, seeing some of that heavy rain continue in that area. Granted, we're not going to stay, talking about this all the way to 9:45, unless, somehow something completely changed and we just got, things to really build in and we got like a flash flood emergency. We probably won't talk about this all that long, just until the heavier rain stops in that area. Granted, right now it's pretty heavy in spots and even a new lightning strike in the last 60 seconds there. So I know going back, it's been maybe a couple years we had a flash flood emergency, and towards some of these areas here, I think more, in toward maybe the Valdosta zone. It was kind of in between some tropical systems, not tropical related there in terms of the tropical axis. So kind of blends together a little bit, but it was a really odd situation as we were looking up that way. But the flash flood warning from the Weather Service in Tallahassee here, just reading that off, the Weather Service, they're issuing a flash flood warning outside of the area for Barron and Cook, but then in our area for North Central Lowndes until 9:45 p.m. at 6:52. Doppler radar indicated thunderstorms producing heavy rain across the warned area. Flash flooding is either ongoing or expected to begin shortly. They're on Hahira and some areas getting a little bit further up. I know we got to be really careful because, this is more than a flood advisory. It's something that is, more than just that flood advisory here. It's actually gone off on the weather radio. It's not just an aerial flood warning. It's a flash flood warning, which indicates the rapid water rise potential as we kind of, look back, look forward here. Flash flooding in small creeks and streams, urban areas, highways, streets, and underpasses, as well as other poor drainage and low-lying areas, a possibility. So just remember, turn around, don't drown. When encountering flooded roads, most flood deaths do occur in vehicles there. And the Weather Service is saying report observed flooding to local emergency services there, or law enforcement, and request they pass this information along to the National Weather Service there when, that can safely be done. So, again, just trying to give you guys the very latest here. Just trying to give you guys the very latest here on the overall scenario here on this Tuesday evening with this flash flood warning here in play. Again, that potential for that rapid water rise there in a small portion of the area. So, again, it's not like we're going to talk to this, the whole time here or anything like that, but at least for a little bit, come on the air to give you guys the very latest on this as we're looking there toward parts of Lowndes County. So, again, we're looking here. Flash flooding that are ongoing, are expected to begin shortly towards some of these areas in Northern Lowndes County there. As we're looking at the Doppler presentation, again, some very heavy rain in that area there. Just got to be very cognizant. Just looking at some of these details here behind the scenes. I know it's a base flash flood warning right now. If it continues, the rain in there might get upgraded to considerable, and that would set off the wireless emergency alerts on the phone. So that's something to keep in mind as we're looking at things here, the overall meteorology. Again, the overall scenario here, you see heavy rain still around Smith Road, Church Street there. Just trying to give you guys the very latest here on the overall, scenario here that we're dealing with in Northern Lowndes County. Some very, very heavy rain here right now. It's just not letting up right now for too long and over some of these different spots. So just got to be very mindful of that here as we're looking at things, as we're updating you. There's some other spots getting a lot of rain earlier on. In 1 hour, over 3 inches toward Alachua County this afternoon. 3 inches toward areas there, further down in Alachua County as well, granted. And you see some, damage towards Savannah earlier on too. But, toward our area, though, we haven't had any type of flash flood warnings until now, which indicate at least a potential in a few spots maybe for some of that rapid water rise. So not, everywhere, but a few spots here, a possibility that could occur. Again, National Weather Service in Tallahassee is in a flash flood warning for north central Lowndes County there in south central Georgia until 9:45. Doppler radar indicating thunderstorms producing heavy rain across the warned area. Flash flooding these are ongoing and expected to begin shortly. We're talking about maybe some flash flooding of small creeks and streams, urban areas, highways, streets, underpasses, as well as other poor drainage and low-lying areas. So, again, just remember, be aware of your surroundings and do not drive on flooded roads. Turn around, don't drown. When encountering flooded roads, most flood deaths do unfortunately occur in vehicles. A lot of those occur at night as well. Got to be very mindful of that here in this overall situation as we're looking up there towards south central Georgia. So, let me see if there's any questions, comments. Going to go over to other source here. Don't see any right now, but just appreciate everybody tuning in, trusting me here on this Tuesday evening. It's August 25th here. 2026 is trying to give you guys the very latest here as we're following a flash flood warning right now in towards south central Georgia, around the Hahira area there. We're looking at things, reminding you guys, Lowndes County is part of the 38 counties here, just trying to update the very best we can, here on the overall developments. So, just trying to keep you guys safe. Just trying to keep you informed. Looking through some details here. I'm going to see if I can pull up a camera maybe in the area. 4 to 5-1 camera maybe. We'll try. See what we can kind of gather here. Okay, there's a camera on Hahira. Not a clear one really, but we'll go ahead and pull it up, I guess, here in the system. We'll just see kind of the inclement conditions there at GDOT camera. We'll go ahead and throw that up here. Able to see the wetness there for sure as we're looking toward that zone. Just kind of trying to tell that weather story there in north, south central Georgia with that flash flood warning. At least people are getting by right now, in this area around mile marker 27. But again, just trying to keep you up to date, trying to keep you informed. Just trying to monitor things. We'll go to mile marker 32 in just a moment here. Kind of getting toward the edge of the area. It says Lowndes on here, but it's kind of right on the edge of our viewing circle here. But it shows the flooding concern a little bit more prominently, it would seem. So we'll go ahead and throw it on up here. You can see as it kind of freezes up some, but you definitely tell that things are a little bit wetter than we would like to see here with some of that ponding there toward areas there, just off the highway, it would seem. So there's some water on the road, but people are getting by, it would look like. But yeah, this is another GDOT camera in toward their Lowndes County area, at least right toward that Lowndes line, on the periphery of our area. But again, that's kind of the storyline there right now. Trying to give you guys the latest toward I-75, Lowndes County, and then, watching things just in that overall vicinity. Just watching things in our overall vicinity there as we're looking toward Cook County, which is just outside of the area. But, Lowndes County's in our area. We have that flash flood warning here right now. As we get into what areas around, it looks like Petty's Road, McNeil Road, Church Street, Webb Street there, Smith Road, some heavy, heavy rainfall in toward that area there. I mean, these rates of rain, if they continue like this for an hour, which they wouldn't necessarily do that, generally they don't. These are just very high overall, is what I'm saying. I mean, that, 8 inches an hour, which isn't going to happen, but, you get 30 minutes of that type of rate, or you get kind of half of that rate on average for an hour. For the whole 60 minutes, you get 4 inches of rain, and that is problematic. That is significant there. So, could end up getting upgraded to considerable here for not careful. Not much wind in that. But again, we're going between some of our different modes here. This kind of shows at least 2.5, but really, we need to go to some other modes here. You see at least an elevated flash flood risk. Looks like we have right on the northern edge of our area here, according to the Barron system here in northern Lowndes County, maybe a very high flash flooding risk. So let's kind of see what is showing for the last 12 hours there. Well, not necessarily showing it on that, but let's try 6 hour. And then we'll go over to current radar. Still seeing quite a bit of heavy rain in northern Lowndes County there as we get around the Henderson Steele area, give or take. So I have to watch that trend carefully. We have to just watch some of these different trends here really carefully, as we update the very best we can. So let's go ahead and see here. We're going to do, let's see. We're going to go ahead and go over to hydro. Or no, actually, let's just, okay, we're just going to go ahead and go to hydrology in our system. Look at that flash flood risk. See if there's any other spots I'm missing. Some to the north, but that's our area, up that way. But we have the flash flood warning 4 parts of our area right now. Around Hahira. Some very heavy rain. Until this heavy rain stops, I, don't really want to wrap up covered. Hopefully it won't, take too long to stop, being that high of rate. But we just have to watch the trends there. Again, looking here, again, that's just one way of sewing it, though. Really, the more accurate way would be sewing it over here. 5 inches there. Well, that's significant. So we get that right near McNeil Road. So check power outages real quick. We got some towards some of our different zones here. Not overwhelming, but some isolated outages here in quite a few different counties. So that green a little bit higher just outside of the area, but again, just watching the overall progression here. Also storm total, which is going to be pretty similar. We have some special weather statements toward the zones here just outside of them. We see 5 inches there. That's a lot of rain. You're getting towards some of these spots here. Significant rainfall totals. You see areas near the state line, about 4 inches. A lot of other spots, a lot less, but still, noteworthy in areas. Some, no, not getting any rain at all. So definitely a variation here. As we're looking at things overall, eventually this kind of cuts off because this is about the ostorator I'm looking at. But you get the idea. We have this a flash flood warning here right now in play. Around the Hahira area. Again, just watching the overall meteorological storyline. Again, some of us have needed rain, but you just don't have too much too quick here. Lately, we've started to, get a little bit higher with those numbers, but let's go ahead and see here. I'm going to see what else I can kind of pull on up here as we're looking at the latest. A couple lightning strikes, kind of popping in, but not much wind energy there. Again, just trying to watch the overall progression here. Over the last hour, it's kind of been hanging around that same area. But the drought story, you don't see that drought really being much of an issue there. So, just kind of in that moderate range to dry per se category. So this really, is starting to become a little too much. I mean, granted, anywhere, even in a severe drought, extreme drought, exceptional drought, if you get too much too quick, you still get a flash flood warning. But just watching the trends here. Under the overall broad brush forecast here for the next week or so. You see some spots here getting multiple inches, other spots, on average not getting that type of rain. But it's kind of telling that with a story there. As we go ahead and show you. Again, not too much in Cook and in areas that are burying, but more so in our area here with Lowndes, Hira, on Main Street, some heavier rain, and Smith Lane, and Smith Road, and Brigman Road, Church Street there. Of course, I-75's in here as well. Again, looking here at the latest. Got a viewer on Twitch watching. Appreciate you tuning on in here on this Tuesday evening. We're on quite a few different platforms here, including YouTube. There we got 6 folks watching right now on YouTube. Again, just trying to keep everybody safe and informed. Again, looking at the very latest here, going to go back over, to the source here. Let me go ahead and just remind you guys here the coverage area. Looking through things. I know we have a viewer on Facebook watching there. Appreciate you tuning on in on the Kesey Cloud weather page there. Just looking through all the different data points. Let me go ahead and see, guys, Tallahassee right now. We do have a strong storm and a second day of classes there. FSU, and there's now a significant weather advisory. I mean, it's summertime, so it's isn't exactly unexpected, but to 8 o'clock, significant weather advisory there. Seeing some lightning in southern Leon, includes the FAMU area as well. Looking here at the scans, a little bit of wind in there. We'll watch the trends. But yeah, 7-day, I wanted to go over that 7-day if you guys missed it from earlier on. Seeing some adjustments here, with the raw data. And you do see here Wednesday, maybe a little lower than today here. But as we look toward Thursday to Saturday, there is a situation where the football games, could be impacted by adverse weather. Just got to be very mindful here. Just got to be very mindful, that lightning safety. Just whenever thunder roars, you need to go indoors. Lightning can strike miles away from a parent storm. So got to be really mindful of that for football. On Friday night, high school football, the Jags game. Saturday night, the FSU game. So I'm going to be watching the trends with that very carefully in the days ahead. Got to be really mindful of that. But we got to be mindful of this flash flood warning. The reason we're on right now at this point in time, again, trying to give you guys the very latest here. Just trying to give you guys the very latest on the overall scenario. Trying to keep you informed. 5.5 inches there north of Hahira. It's a lot of rain. Just really telling that story. Right around Main Street here. Let's just go back. I'll go back 2 hours with this even. We'll do 5-minute lapse increments here, and then we'll kind of loop this on through. I mean, it's really kind of been an issue for more than just the 1 hour is where you're getting all these totals from. And that's why, we're so concerned toward this area here as we're looking at the overall meteorological picture enough to get that flash flood warning in here around Hahira in Northern Lowndes County. I'll zoom out a little from a little more perspective. See the interaction there with the boundary, and then things is kind of getting going there as we're looking toward that zone. You're just seeing the different, boundary interactions, as they can have an impact here. And you saw that one area, and then all that development there on Cecil, and then we just seen heavy rain here hanging around the Hahira area enough to get us all the way to a flash flood warning here. And it's in Plato 9:45 p.m. So that really tells a story here. We'll move this up so you can see for perspective anyway, the Adel area, and kind of see, they've had some of that heavy rain up that way as well. But, we're focused on Hahira. We're focused on Lowndes County here as we're looking at the very latest. So, again, just trying to keep you guys safe and informed. I mean, in general, it looks like we're not seeing as much of the heavy rain in the warning, but right around Hahira, it's still hanging on there. As we're looking at things, we're looking at things very carefully here with the overall view. So it looks like it's starting to weaken off a little in that latest scan, a little bit more pronounced now. With some of that weakening, and that would be some great news, obviously. And once we wrap the stream, you can watch things with the interactive radar on clutter.com/radar. I'll kind of watch things over the next few minutes to see if we need to just keep the stream going. Once we wrap coverage, as this really weakened in that last scan, or, either keep it running or just wrap the stream completely here. We'll kind of play it by ear over the next few moments. But again, watching things toward Lowndes County with that flash flood warning there. But that latest scan, we're starting to see those higher rain rates really starting to fall off, except for that one little corridor there, just right east of the downtown area. So just got to remember to turn around, don't drown. That's the Weather Service's mantra. We're getting towards sunset, which is a key benchmark here. We just got to be very careful with this, in terms of the overall scenario. Just got to be really mindful here, of the scenario here as we're looking at things meteorologically. Again, just trying to be here for you the best we can as things came together there. We were talking about some of this stuff earlier on in our coverage earlier, but really seeing things come together here over the last little bit, enough for a flash flood warning here. Right now, still Main Street, Hodges Street, Lawson Street, areas there on Edgewater Place, Giroux Circle, still getting some heavy rain there, but overall, I'm starting to slack off for a lot of you guys there in toward Northern Lowndes County, so that's some good news, obviously. as we're trying to give you guys the very latest updates. So, again, just trying to keep you informed here. Flash flood warning at 9:45. Flash flooding of small creeks and streams, urban areas, highways, streets, underpasses, as well as other poor drainage and low-lying areas a possibility there. So we have to just be careful about that as we watch, the overall scenario evolve in towards south central Georgia. So you see there around Drew Circle, areas there on East Main Street there, the Edgewater Place area, North Hagen Bridge Road. Seeing some of that heavy rain in there in towards South Georgia. The models, they've not exactly handled some of this great ground. You can kind of tell if you know something about meteorology, just this lighter rain tells you it's a more tamped down type of environment here now. Things have kind of, wound down because we're lacking the instability in a lot of these spots further off toward the east. Now, this might still show us a little bit more than what's going to actually happen over there. Well, not so much at all. So, should be showing a little bit more than that. But, at the overall progression, you see tomorrow, we start to see stuff fire up here again as we look at the overall situation. So, again, just trying to keep you informed here. Trying to keep up to date for folks that didn't catch our other coverage earlier on. Let me kind of get on in here. I'm going to say our coverage area just for a second because I need to get our Baron 3K model in here for everybody at home. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys this because I think it can really help tell weather story here, as we kind of watch things of the overall progression, because I know you guys, and it's honestly picking up on more than it should in terms of what it's not, actually gonna be, this unstable here as we look off toward the east for this type of stuff. So let's just kind of ignore some of that. I mean, but as we get in toward that Wednesday, you can see here maybe some more development here as we look, maybe even a little bit more than that if things stop a little sooner. You see quite a bit of stuff in Tennessee, and then as you get, toward Thursday there, you can see that frontal boundary there coming on in, maybe starting to add a focus. That's why chances are a little lower tomorrow, though, and then they start picking up later on toward like that Thursday there. But, we're just going to keep you guys up to date here on the overall situation. I know just watching the overall meteorological pattern here, we'll go back to the front of this here. You see our, boundary, and then you see another boundary come in play, and we'll just continue to watch the overall progression. Just appreciate everybody tuning on in, trusting me. Of course, you see Tennessee, you see Nashville on here, and you do think of what, happened earlier today, the announcement being made of the passing of legendary country music singer there, Dolly Parton, at the age of 80 years old. My thoughts and prayers remain with her family and friends and everyone who loved her during this very difficult time here as we look at that here toward our southeastern, type of view here on the map. But as we go ahead and go back to the flash flood warning right now, you can kind of see here on a higher up, looking in toward the Main Street area, the Coleman Road Northwest area, Chancey Drive, some heavy rain, but it seems like we're not seeing as much of the reds here on this map here right now as we're watching the overall progression. So that's some good news here as we're looking. We're still seeing some of it, though, hanging around there. And let's look at some of the, rainfall totals here now. We'll go to some of these dual pole estimates. 5.8 there. You kind of get the idea, just a significant, flooding event there, not impossible toward neighborhoods here and there, getting that much rain. As we go ahead and look on in here, just kind of telling that weather story. Again, looking at the latest information. Just all this heavy rainfall for sure in there. Right now, a little bit heavier with the actual rates, if not quite a bit heavier, in a few spots compared to those spots we're looking at. See quite a bit less in some of these spots that are getting the heavy rain now, which is good. That should help us out being able to handle some of this rain overall. So we just keep looking through some of our different tools here in the toolkit. There's some high rainfall rates in there, leading to almost 6 inches of rain. Coleman Road, Northwest Chancey Drive, Church Street, Main Street there, Petty's Road. Some heavier rain back out in here in northern parts of Brooks County. I have to watch some of that to see if this starts to become an issue for some flash flooding concern out that way. It's not out of the question. Some of this kind of spinning around a little bit. Southeast Georgia, I'm not as concerned because we're more stable over there, but gotta wonder if we'll get another flash flood warning. We've seen this before, like Northern Thomas, Northern Brooks, could get some type of flash flood warning back out over there. We'll have to watch the progression. And I think it was late May, right before we had the Barron upgrade, we had some of that, in that general area. And, now we're wrapping up kind of the summer period here pretty soon. So in some ways, maybe it makes sense that we kind of get a little bit of a redo with that. So, in some ways, we hope we don't get, I know we had one of those, a considerable warning back then, but we'll have to watch the trends as we look at the overall meteorology. So, with that being said, I kind of feel like we may need to just keep the stream going, just in case we get another flash flood warning back out in here. But I'm not going to keep talking for now. But at least with this other warning, until it goes away, we'll just keep it running. And if we don't have another warning by then, maybe we wrap it. But with the other warning in play, I think we're good to just go ahead and kind of run it through. And we'll watch the progression, meteorologically, behind the scenes. And if I need to pop back in, I will. So that's what we're going to do, I think. We'll just kind of leave this running so everybody can kind of see what we're talking about here. We just need to watch your northern parts of Brooks County, northern Thomas County, because we might end up getting another flash flood warning here as things come together. I know those spots so far. I need to show you guys this here. So let's see how much rain they picked up so far in terms of some of these estimates. As we look out there, it's not too bad yet. 1.7. That's some of the highest. So we'll play it by ear. A lot more, further out toward the east there, closer to that 6-inch mark. But, I'll continue to watch the trends. If I need to break back in, I will. We'll keep this running here. If things kind of fall off completely, it might cut the stream. It looks like they're kind of falling off completely toward the warning, but we're getting some building of the convection further west, which concerns me. We had some stuff in northern Clint. It's kind of falling off. Our system was showing maybe a risk up in there, pretty rural up there, but we're I-75, obviously, been watching some of that risk there in Northern Lowndes. So, especially this being on the edge of the area, we're just going to go ahead and keep the stream running for now. But if we need to pop back in, we will. I will leave it running with that flash flood warning there for Lowndes for now. Again, I'm running it more just in case we have to break back in for maybe a warning to the west, because if it was just that and that was fading like it is, it's really fading off, we probably just wrap the stream. But I'm going to keep it going in case we get another flash flood warning back out to the west toward Lake Thomas and Brooks County. So I'll keep you guys up to date here. Let me just check questions and comments one more time in case anybody has anything, because I may not have to break back in, but we'll leave this running for a little bit. So that's kind of the storyline right now. Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center. Thanks for tuning in. But we're going to leave this running for a little bit. That flash flood warning continuing and in the area off to the west, parts of Colquitt County, north of our area, but also parts of Thomas and Brooks, that's where we could get another flash flood warning. So we'll leave it running for that, purpose here. But again, where the actual warning is for our area, that's really fading, and that's some good news. But to the western, northern fringes of Thomas and northern Brooks, we need to watch out, because it seems like that's not moving very much, and that could start to, maybe become more of a flash flooding risk in the minutes and hours ahead. So we'll leave this running for now, and we'll play it by ear to see if we need to break back in. But I'm going to move this around just a little bit. We're right on the edge of our area, and Let me see. I may want to try to make some adjustments just so we can see a little bit more of our covered area here. It's a little tricky because we're right here on the edge like this. I want to keep Hahira, though, in the frame. So let's at least show you some more of the Florida zones here as we kind of look at things. I know it's always kind of tricky here with the overall meteorological storyline. But again, we're just going to keep the trends, Roy, we're going to watch them. We're going to keep those in mind here. If we need to pop back in, we will. We're going to leave this running right now for that flash flood warning toward parts of Lowndes, but not overly concerned about that anymore. Granted, there still could be some of those, roads being impacted, maybe some road closures here or there. So still keep those in mind, but we're going to turn our attentions to Northern Thomas, Northern Brooks over the next little bit to see if that starts to train on in. If not, we won't have to break back in maybe and we'll just wrap it. But if things start to escalate, then of course we'll be back on the air here to give you guys the very latest. But for now, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks for trusting me. We'll keep this running here. And you know what? I kind of wonder if we should show Tallahassee because there's that significant weather advisory down that way. Let's kind of angle this a little bit over so at least you guys can kind of see here some of the stuff toward Tallahassee. Granted, it's a situation down there where some of the worst is not in the actual polygon anymore, but might as well at least show you guys that here too, and you have Hahira in the frame as well. So that's kind of the storyline for now, as we're trying to keep you up to date. Just a one-man band, but trying to update you guys the very best we can. So, again, trying to inform you here as warranted. But that flash flood warning, a lesser concern, but we do have, some of that axe in there. A little bit more concerned about to the west with a little higher rain rates now. But, still got to be careful in those areas that have had all that rain there toward Hahira. Something to bear in mind as we're looking at things, as we're looking at the overall meteorological picture. So that's going to wrap it for now. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to keep this running, though. Enjoy things the best you can. meteorologist Casey Cloud jumping back in real fast here. I know I'm not really seeing anything urgent to jump back in for, so I didn't run the intro. We do have a significant other advisory now for parts of Thomas, Brooks, so some stronger winds even possible in there. We'll watch the trends with that. But I noticed some of our comments weren't coming through, so I just wanted to, I see them on my other YouTube source directly, but I didn't see them for whatever reason. They weren't coming through on my source that kind of aggregates all the different commenters on in here. It was someone on a Twitch viewer commenting in, but just wanted to tell you, everybody, watching, that I appreciate you watching, like John B there, Top Cat, as well as D. Adams there, Andrew, tuning on in, CJ, and then Thomas as well. So I just really, appreciate everybody tuning on in here as we're looking at things, on this Tuesday evening. So I apologize for that. I didn't come through in the other system here that kind of aggregates all the comments. Just wanted to tell everybody thank you so much for tuning in there and commenting over on YouTube there. Viewers, as we're looking, like John B. Topcat, D. Adams, Andrew Williams there, CJ, Thomas there. I just really appreciate everybody tuning on, and I appreciate your viewership. If we need to pop back in for anything urgent, we will. Again, watching some of those trends just real fast while I am, talking to everybody out there. Let me go ahead and we'll show you just the velocity mode here. There is a little bit of wind enhancement in Northern Thomas, Northern Brooks, and a little surprising considering, all the storms we've had around, but things that sometimes when I get together here, even with some of that lightning, I was kind of thinking more of the excessive rainfall process, but I have to make sure we don't get anything to uptick, beyond strong here. Hopefully not, but do have to watch out for maybe another flash flood warning or two. I mean, where we have the one in play, it's really kind of falling off. Still got to watch out for just acts in there to maybe be, still a little bit of a hindrance in terms of the light rain falling, as you still have some flooded roads maybe in spots possibly. Not out of the question as we're kind of looking at things overall. So we'll continue to watch the trends, but just wanted to pop in mainly to read off some of those comments there from some of our viewers on YouTube. Again, I apologize for that. It didn't come through on my system that aggregates all the comments on in. A Top Cat commented, and again, just appreciate you tuning on in. Thomas there, CJ, Andrew, D. Adams, John B. Just appreciate everybody tuning on in here on this Tuesday, this August 25th, 2026. So I'll have to check some of them individually, I guess, sometimes here to make sure we give you guys credit out there. For whatever reason, I don't know why that didn't come through. It only says the one comment from Twitch there, which I appreciate as well. But again, just appreciate everybody tuning in, trusting me. I'll be back here if it's warranted. Going to keep this running with that flash flood warning there. Still technically in play. You do have a flooded advisory. I might just keep that kind of, if I can click on it here. Let's see if I think I can. That's what we're going to be watching next, to be completely honest. That flash flood, warning potential could come into where Thomas County and Brooks County with this kind of meandering around eventually. For now, we still have kind of this flash flood warning remaining, kind of giving us a justification to keep the stream going, but really it's to make sure we don't have to break back in, right away for areas off toward the west here for the heavy rainfall threat that's starting to really take shape into Northern Thomas and Northern Brooks. So, that's north of Thomas, north of Quitman there for a geographic perspective. So, again, there's the map of the overall counties. I'm talking about Thomas, Brooks maybe next, but Lowndes is where we still have that warning remaining in our area for now. The rain, all the rain they've had in there, half, foot toward that number in some spots. Really slacking off at this point, but we'll be back here if it's warranted. Just again, wanted to really give credit to everybody tuning on in there on YouTube, especially, make sure I give you guys some shout outs there, as we're looking at that information. So we'll continue to keep you guys advised here and be back here as warranted. Just stay safe, enjoy things the best you can. This is a clouds weather alert. Meteorologist Casey Cloud breaking back in here on this Tuesday evening, looking at a severe thunderstorm warning in Plato 9 p.m. right now for parts of our South Georgia zone. So we're just trying to keep you guys informed here on the very latest. I know as I go ahead and get on in here, we'll be able to see that this warning does include parts of Thomas and Brooks counties. At 8:12, a severe thunderstorm that was looking about 10 miles northeast of Thomasville, moving south at about 15 miles an hour. So watching the overall progression with this, moving south about 15 miles an hour, 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts possible around Thomasville, at least on the east side of town. And you see Boston, would be involved in this. I'm reading off the statement. I see it anyway. If I zoom in tighter, you'll be able to see that community. But you have Coolidge there, Barwick, Dixie, Thomasville Municipal Airport, Gruberville, Dillon, Everett, Enon, Patton, Easton, Oaklawn, Merrillville, areas around Hollis as well. So 60-mile-an-hour wind gust until about 9 p.m. Eastern time. And we're kind of watching that more for maybe a flash flooding threat, but we're really started to see the storm really grow into maybe a damaging wind threat. At least right now, may end up being flash flooding, as a threat there as well for the next little bit. I know we had that flash flood warning still around Hahira, but overall, most of the heavy rain is kind of ended toward that. There's a little bit still showing up on the radar, but that's not the biggest concern right now. The biggest concern is this new severe thunderstorm warning. There's another one just west of the area, by the way. That's not our concern back out in here, though, where you see my mouse. This is the one that's our concern in our coverage area, as we're seeing this dive off toward the southeast, but only at about 5 miles an hour. Or excuse me, I'm looking at the other one. Let's see. South about 15 miles an hour. I had the other warning clicked on my system here for a second, but the other one, only moving at 5. This one moving at 15, so not a very fast mover either. As we're looking at things here, trying to keep you guys informed here with the very latest on the overall meteorological storyline. So again, this one moving south at 15, but still, it's not a very fast movement at all here as we're updating the very best we can. So let's go ahead and zoom in here as we keep you up to date here, give you the latest, keep you informed. You see some very heavy rain, which is going to become a bigger issue, I have a feeling, toward this area here. We're already seeing some of these estimates here, upward about 2 to maybe getting closer to, 3.5 inches even in the northern part of our area there. Some of these spots over to the east there, you see getting closer to 6 inches with the other, area we were watching with a flash flood warning right now. There's a flood advisory here as we're looking for part of this severe thunderstorm warning area. But, the severe thunderstorm warning, indicates maybe some wind hazards in here. Definitely seeing some of that potential as we're looking at things here on the Doppler scans. So, again, just trying to keep you guys up to date. I know we'll go ahead and put the coverage map back up real quick. And I know we're having some issues here getting some of our comments and questions on the actual aggregate source here. So I have YouTube pulled up directly over here. And just wanted to go over some of those from earlier on. If you guys have any, I'll keep checking, the best I can here. But I know we had John B. Watson earlier on, Top Cat, D. Adams there, Andrew, CJ, Thomas there. Just appreciate everybody tuning in, trusting me. Again, I didn't see those. They weren't coming up on my aggregate source there. That kind of goes between all my different, platforms that I'm on. Most of my comments generally on YouTube there, but I weren't getting them in on my aggregate source there. So I didn't see them earlier on. I mentioned them when we broke back in. I broke back in a little while ago, just to kind of go over them and give you an update. This was strengthening this area that we're looking at here on the Doppler, but and now it's strengthened enough to have to stay on with it as a severe thunderstorm warning situation. As we're looking there, you see Boston community there popping on up on the map around Old Quitman Road, Lower Boston Road. I know we still do have the flash flood warning on Hahira that we jumped in for originally, but you see most of that's kind of slacked off. There's just a little bit of heavy rain right on the edge of that, but you see here, as we have this severe thunderstorm warning at 9 p.m. here, we have Thomas County as we're looking. We're seeing some wind enhancement in here. Zoom into some of these roads. I mean, we're talking about Pope Road there, Hunt Road. Again, seeing some of these parameters come together here as we're looking at the overall storyline. You have, again, our warning at 9 p.m. there. Just seeing some of these winds here. Some of these winds in the overall pattern here. Just trying to keep you safe and informed. Trying to be here for you the best we can. Again, some very heavy rainfall in here. And then the gusty wind potential also there as well. If this were to hold together in toward Florida, you see the Monticello area could be impacted eventually there. You also see areas in Taylor County there. We have this severe thunderstorm warning until 9, or that's the weather statement down there until 9 p.m. We have the severe thunderstorm warning up here until 9 p.m. But as we're watching the overall sequence, again, you have some of those greens and reds trying to come together a little bit, maybe a burst of wind be most likely in there as we're updating you. I know, let's look at power outages to see the storyline there. You don't see too many in our area in that part of our region, but just north, all those counties have some outages. You see the southeast Georgia some, Dixie County and Florida with some outages as well. So definitely, worth noting here with the overall storyline as we look at some of the different intricacies here that the meteorology, the weather affects here and, causes issues with. So once you get to 58 miles an hour, I know there's been different studies done here. Once you get to that 58 benchmark there, it's a situation where that's when you really start getting more damage, and that's, and power outages, things along those lines. And that's why it's a bit thunderstorm warnings get issued when winds seem capable based on radar algorithms or reports. In this case, it seems radar algorithms indicating maybe winds to about 58 miles an hour or greater with gusts. That starts to knock out power a little bit more, knock down some trees, things along those lines. I know it is a Tuesday night here, and we're past sunset. So, seeing this storm accident here past sunset, never fun to have that happen. And as we get into toward the fall and toward the winter there, that'll be a lot more frequent because the days are going to be shorter here as we're looking at things. The days are going to be shorter here as we're looking at the overall timeline. And we'll have to watch out for stuff that's more driven by high CAPE and low shear, or let me back that up, high shear and low CAPE. And then, right now it's about high CAPE, high energy values, and low shear. But it'll be the reverse of that. So that means things will be able to be possible more anytime. Granted, if you have more instability, that can help. But right now it's more about instability. Granted, we have a frontal boundary in play here that's at least helping to focus some of the convection. So again, just trying to keep you guys informed the best I can. Just trying to update you guys the best I can here. 8:27 p.m. on this Tuesday. Again, I'm just trying to be here for you. Just trying to be here for you. Trying to be here, to give you guys the latest information. Just trying to, update you moment by moment here on the latest developments. Let's go ahead and kind of look in here. You see our severe thunderstorm warning. Again, looking at this until 9 p.m. Looking at some of the different scans here in the Weather Center. I'm going to check the Tallahassee angle on this. Seeing this from about 2,700 feet. The Valdosta angle is from about, actually, Tallahassee's closer than just barely by a few hundred feet. So, it's actually a little bit more concerning in some ways because this looks like almost a little bit of rotation on here, a little bit of a notch. So we'll have to monitor that carefully then as we're looking at things overall. Let me check some of our parameters real quick on our other source. Again, just appreciate everybody tuning in, trusting me. I'm trying to give you guys the very latest here. We do have a little weak rotation west of Barwick, north of Boston there. We have instability about 3,000 joules per kilogram. Not really seeing like supercell composite around there too much. There's a little bit in the vicinity, so we'll have to watch, but a little bit of rotation around. Not overwhelming, but we need to be paying attention to this in case there's something were to try to, spin into something weak in terms of something tornadic. Shouldn't be anything too crazy. This time of year, Roy wouldn't expect anything too crazy with that anyway. But we started the stream off for a flash flood warning, but we're watching this to see if we get maybe another flash flood warning, which is still possible, but then instead, seeing a severe thunderstorm warning come into play at this point for this area here, off toward northeast of Thomasville. I'm starting to see a little bit of a hook almost on one of my other sources here. I mean, even on what you guys are seeing, let's just be careful with this, right? Near past sunset. I mean, it wouldn't be something people would be able to see either, unless you have lightning flashing, in terms of maybe being able to light the sky up. So a little bit tricky situation here, and we're looking at things very carefully. So again, trying to be very mindful here. Seeing a little bit of weak rotation with this. Just trying to watch the different scans. We'll see if they add a tornado possible tag. I don't want to talk too much about it, unless they start, adding that tornado possible tag. They haven't sent out an update as of this point, so that's good news at least. But I'm just going to continue to give you guys the very latest here. I'm just trying to keep people safe and informed. You see a little inflow in there, honestly. That's not tornado debris or anything. That'd be inflow. So I need to be kind of careful here, just in case. This is the closer radar here. Just a little weak rotation around, Stevenson Road, Pope Road, Egypt Road. You have another one in west of our area. That's even moving slower, believe it or not. But again, that's not our concern. This one is, as we look here, let's loop it over the last hour. Looks like we had maybe some type of interaction even. Maybe there was a boundary kind of sitting there. It's kind of hard to tell from this rate. I mean, we had this stuff coming up, but that's, we can get something to kind of spin up like that. Spin up like that this time of year. And there was already some a little bit of wind enhancement in there. But you got to be careful on Boston here. At least maybe some wind damage possible. As we look in here, as we get down real tighter on Eastern Crossing Road, the Five Forks community, Summer Hill Road, Old Quitman Road. I'm again trying to keep everybody safe and informed. See some outages, Thomas and Brooks counties now. Not showing on this mode yet, but we'll show it here. Maybe a few outages more toward like Adele, that county there. 1,000 out, but again, we're watching this carefully. Let's go to the Tallahassee area because technically that's the closer angle here now. Granted, I mean, you still want to use the other one for a second opinion a little bit. It wasn't quite as ominous. I mean, it's not overwhelming or anything, but for this time of year, that is some weak rotation, I would say. As we look here on Eastern Crossing Road, because what I'm looking for here, we have the Tallahassee radar down here. So what we're seeing winds that are, we have the radar down here, and you have winds going away from the radar. As I click on some stuff there, you have winds going toward the radar here. So again, just have to be kind of mindful of that here as we're looking at the overall meteorology. Just seeing some different wind directions here as we watch the overall scenario. I'll zoom in on this a little better. You can kind of see my arrows here a little bit. I drew them from broad, few here per se. But again, just keeping you up to date. See some lightning here in the ward parts of Taylor County. Just whenever thunder roars go indoors. We're coming up on that 3-year anniversary of Hurricane Idalia, believe it or not. And you can see some of these areas around the Osceola River Road area getting impacted by some heavy downpours. You have the Buckeye Road area just kind of telling that weather story here as we're looking at things. So, as we get back to the north, though, we have some wind enhancement. Just need to be careful with that. Trying to give you guys the very latest on things. Trying to be here for you the best we can. Just trying to watch the trends. Again, appreciate the viewership here. I know I can see your comments directly on YouTube now. I'm looking from time to time. They weren't coming through our aggregate system on this feed for whatever reason, but I can see them if you guys have any questions, comments here now. Again, I appreciate John B. Topcat, D. Adams there, Andrew, C.J. Thomas, Daryl Watson, coverage from earlier on. And just appreciate everybody tuning in right now. It looks like we have 8 of you watching on the YouTube feed. So, again, just appreciate everybody tuning on in. Gonna check to see our Facebook feeds real quick. It looks like we've had, Mr. Miss Bassett watching, Katie watching on the Facebook Casey Cloud Weather page, and then I'll check the Facebook Cloud Weather page here as well. Looks like we've had Katie watching over there too. So appreciate everybody tuning on in, everybody trusting me. Just trying to be here for you the best I can. Just watching the overall trends. See a little bit of a notch here. It's a thunderstorm warning in play. I'm just trying to keep you informed. Just looking through all the different data points. Don't think we have any cameras we can necessarily see from here. Well, let's see if we have some around Thomasville. Might be able to see some of that lightning on the Georgia Department of Transportation cameras. So let me go looking for those. Just a one-man band here, but I think we can get something from over there. Maybe of the lightning at least. That could help tell the weather story. Don't have it right there like with the wind enhancement, but since it's dark, it could really show the lightning. Gonna, look at some of these here, see if I can find something to show you guys. If we can get something pointed east there, maybe. Oh yeah, we're seeing some on this one. So let me get this up here in our system. We'll go ahead and switch it on over. Georgia Department of Transportation camera there out of Thomas County, around Thomasville, but looking, towards some of that lightning, or, at least seen in the sky. I'm not sure which way this is facing exactly, but this is a camera out of Thomasville, the Georgia 511 source. See some of those flashes there in the sky. It looks like people are out and about still on the roads there as we're looking at things overall. So, and seen a little bit of wind there, but again, the worst is off toward the east a little bit as we're watching the overall meteorological progression. So, again, just trying to keep you guys up to date here. Trying to keep you informed. Just watching everything. Seeing some of those flashes. See if I can find some more cameras toward that Thomas County area. We have that warning in play. Just bear with me here as we try to find some of that warning, though, continuing for parts of Thomas and parts of Brooks counties. Parts of Thomas, parts of Brooks until 9 o'clock. Okay, this one's kind of night vision, but it's just show the storyline well. Georgia Department of Transportation camera, you really see some of these flashes here in the night sky. I mean, that's really telling that story there with the lightning, the electrical energy here that we were seeing produced by that severe thunderstorm. Just really lighting up the night sky there in north-south Georgia. So, again, just trying to keep everybody safe and informed here. We're looking State Road 35 connector at State Road 35 area there. So, again, just trying to update you guys the best we can. Just seeing the overall storm energy there, points of being on display. I know right now, that camera sometimes maybe going in and out, but staying with it here. Just the adverse conditions, just a lot of lightning in that area. That really does tell the weather story pretty well. Toward the 511 perspective right now, even though it is black and white, in the night vision, it's still telling that story here. Okay, we just got a flash flood warning. I have a feeling, it's that similar area, but I haven't looked. So let's just go ahead and we'll move away from the camera for now here. I just see the office and a flash flood warning Eastern Time, Tallahassee. So we'll move away from that camera and we'll go ahead and see what the alert is. It is that area. Kind of why we kept the stream going, anyway, even though the other area is slacking off. I was kind of concerned that we'd get some of that excessive rainfall potential in here more even than the severe thunderstorm warning. I kind of had a feeling we'd get this flash flood warning maybe popping up. I know we have the severe thunderstorm warning here that kind of is, ahead of that in the overall sequence. But the flash flood warning, for areas north, at the same timeline south to 11:45. So Colquitt north, but then parts of Brooks and parts of Thomas until 11:45. So flash flood warning for the next 3 hours here as we're looking toward that zone. Seeing some of the different elements come together here. Seeing a flash flood warning for parts of Brooks and Thomas in our area, northwestern Brooks, northeastern Thomas, to 11:45 at 8:39 there. Doppler radar indicated thunderstorms producing heavy rain across the warned area. Flash flooding is either ongoing or expected to begin shortly. Flash flooding of small creeks and streams, urban areas, highways, streets, underpasses there, as well as other poor drainage and long-line areas possible. I know Moultrie, right on the edge of that threat, north of our area, but in our area, we're tracking areas like Coolidge there under this potential. As we kind of get on in here, we'll also look, you'll be able to see there's around 5 Forks there, Dillon, Merrillville, Patton, Hollis. Again, I'm just trying to give you guys the very latest here on the overall meteorological scenario. So let's go ahead and see here. We have our 3-hour rainfall estimates here, 2 to 3 inches in that area. So definitely seeing that precipitation really, that rain really fall down there quickly in toward that zone. So see it kind of going so slow over that area there. And the lightning counter, I mean, we saw the light on that camera. I mean, the lightning is actually, staying about steady state, if not going up at times, as we're looking toward that zone. So that is problematic, obviously. Again, the wind in there, we're watching that. But it's a situation with that flash flood warning here. I know the one we came on for earlier on still does remain in effect toward the Hihara area for another hour unless they drop it early. But the rain rates, pretty much have dropped almost nothing there. It's light rain. But we have this flash flood warning over here now as we're looking at the overall meteorology. And it is in play here until 11:45 p.m. So, outside of area, Colquitt, but in our area we have parts of Thomas and Brooks. Again, trying to update you. Let's see all the different elements here. Broad brush into rain. So some of the areas we've had more rain here. You see a flooded advisory out there towards Lowndes for next little bit. But, I mean, that kind of underdoes it a little bit in that mode. But, the single site mode kind of does a better job sometimes of this. But, again, just trying to keep you guys up to date here. Trying to be here for you the best I can. And I didn't mean to pull it up like that, but you kind of get the idea there. We're trying to give you guys the very latest on things. We're just trying to update you here the best we can. Just trying to be here, in terms of all the latest information, be that, source information here for you. So. Let me see if there's any more questions, comments. I know we have a viewer talking about that new flash flood warning there. Definitely just appreciate everybody tuning on in. Everybody trusting me. So again, there's that severe thunderstorm warning in play. The rain chance is definitely, still going to be with us, if not even higher, coming up toward like Thursday, this Saturday, the latest update on this. So definitely telling that weather story here. That unfortunately is going to impact football here, high school football, college football with the Knowles, and then the NFL there. That preseason game in Jacksonville, hopefully the timing works out where it's not, detrimental, but could be, the lightning threat can delay things, obviously, which is really problematic. So, again, just trying to keep you guys up to date here on the overall latest details. So, again, just trying to give you guys the very latest here on things meteorologically. Again, just trying to, be here for you, minute by minute, moment by moment here. So, let's watch the loop. I mean, we were with you all the way back. We've been on and off here with you. We were with you in that 1 o'clock hour. I mean, that's how busy we've been here. Granted, I mean, it hadn't been continuous like it can be some days, but let's loop this here. We'll go 5-minute increments over the last, while there, and I'm just making sure on the oscillator. We'll go ahead. I mean, even before noon, we had some thunderstorm accident here in Bradford County. But you can see some of these areas of severe thunderstorm activity in the yellow boxes popping up here and there. As we've watched, we didn't have any of those for a little while here. I mean, we had flash flood warning and then that dark green, and then we had a severe thunderstorm warning later on, another one west. But, I mean, just a busy picture here. I mean, even late morning there, that lightning around for sure, even before this 8-hour loop. So it's been very active here for sure. As we've seen some of the different boundaries, have an impact here towards some of the different zones. I mean, just really, telling that weather story here. It's been a busy, busy day here in the Weather Center as we try to give you guys the very latest information to protect you, your friends, and your family, inform you, your friends, and your family. So, just currently with a flash flood warning, really 2 of them, but the one I'm not really focusing on because the rates have really ceased, to a very low level in that one. The other one's still going, and we have a severe thunderstorm warning as well, though, toward parts of Thomas, parts of Brooks in our area. So, just continuing to watch these overall trends here, as we look into toward that quarter. Again, it was all about the eastern areas earlier on. I mean, way earlier on. And then, now way later on, we're seeing stuff. I mean, we're seeing stuff early and late here, folks. A little bit later than we generally have to be on. We were on a little earlier than we have to generally be on. And we were on around the showtime with some stuff here at points, too. So it's been busy. It has been very busy here in the Weather Center. So just trying to update you here. Trying to be here for you, the viewer, with the overall meteorological sequence. Just looking here right now, we'll go ahead and the winds look a little weaker in here, thankfully, from that angle. So hopefully we don't want this thunderstorm warning continue, but that heavy rainfall still continuing toward areas around Dillon and Five Forks there, Barwick, Hollis, Merrillville. Again, just trying to keep you guys up to date here on the overall, latest on this scenario. So. Let's see how the storms have bubbled up here today. Just seeing the overall storm tops really get going there. Quarter cloud tops telling a story on this mode, and our viewers talking about some issues maybe with the radar view for echo tops. Not sure on that, but just looking at it through this here, we definitely have to be very mindful of just everything that's bubbled up here with the overall meteorological picture. I'm seeing some stronger storm acts in here northeast of Bainbridge. If you're seeing some light in the distance there from Bainbridge, it's toward the northeast of you right now. That's probably where you're seeing it from. I mean, you could be seeing stuff off toward the west as well, I guess. But yeah, this is the closer. You see some stuff headed toward Cairo here over the next little bit. So we'll watch that area very carefully. But again, just trying to be here for you. Now look at power outages. You see our story, and some of those a little bit higher generally on the edge of the area with the overall storyline toward like Adel there, Cook County, that's north of the area. You see that green, higher percentage on the scale out. Again, this flash flood warning, the worst is, stopped there. Light rain, if at all, in that area. As we look toward the east, though, you can see this heavy rainfall. And the severe thunderstorm warning of 9. Let me see what they're saying about a severe thunderstorm warning. I'm going to loop this here. So our lightning count has gone down a good bit here. Still over 100 in the last 15 minutes. That's what that indicates. Cloud to ground and cloud to cloud in the last 15 minutes there is what that indicates. Whatever's shown on the screen geographically, sometimes even under banners and stuff too. But just the overall storyline with that. I know they did continue the severe thunderstorm warning at 8:42 for parts of Thomas and Brooks, saying severe thunderstorm around the Boston community or 10 miles east of Thomasville, moving south at 15 miles an hour. Thomasville, Boston, Coolidge, Barwick, Dixie, Thomasville, Airport, Gruberville, Dillon, Everett, Enon, Patton, Easton, Oaklawn, Merrillville, Hollis. They're under that warning, that general vicinity. So let me see what else we got here. Gonna check one of our systems, another system, other part of the room here. Not much wind there at the Thomasville Airport so far, so that's good. Again, just keeping everybody safe and informed here. Keeping everybody safe and informed. See some wind, but that seems to be slacking off. It's becoming more of that heavy rain threat there. Got that flood risk in here, high in some areas, unfortunately. Can you see that forward progressing, but it's very slow, which lends, to flooding problems here. So we get on in here. Let's get some of these roads up. See around Poplar Road and Egypt Road and Stevenson Road and Easton Crossing Road. Some of you had that wind potential, and then now maybe some of that flood potential as well around Salem Road. So again, just being very mindful of this here. Merrillville, Patton, Dillon. It feels like this may be moving quicker than the stuff that was in Lowndes earlier on. At least we're seeing some progression with the forward movement with this, trying to, get down to the south here, which is good, but some of this is already clearing areas there in the northern part of Thomas County around Coolidge and Enon and Selly there toward, parts of Brooks and Shan community there, right, in toward, areas. Some of that's actually getting outside of that, flash flood warning there, but you kind of get the idea. Again, just watching the overall progression here. Merrillville, Dillon, Patton, Five Forks. Let's track this a little bit since there is some, movement with this at least. South of 15 is what the Weather Service was saying. So let's go ahead and kind of put a track on this. I mean, it may kind of, hopefully weaken off some eventually, but, we'll just have to watch the trends with stuff in the vicinity, some stuff to the south there. So let's see what we can come up with. And I kind of drew it out both ways a little. So we'll go directly pretty much south. So it's already kind of heading Boston, but it's going to get even worse over the next few minutes. The community of Boston there in Thomas County, Georgia. So again, just trying to update you. You see Everett there deals, kind of get the idea there with the overall scenario. Just watching things, tracking them. Maybe toward Monticello there in about an hour, depending on the overall progressing. So getting toward North Florida. All those flashing strikes mean strikes in the last 60 seconds. Again, just trying to keep you informed, trying to keep you up to date for 38 counties, but really it's about a couple counties right now. Thomas, Brooks, and Lowndes to some degree, what was left, that flash flood warning. So I know if you were talking about a possible, intensification label in special weather statement in that region in South Georgia. As we're kind of being mindful here. We'll have to watch some of these trends, as we're watching towards some of the different communities up there. Parts of Decatur and Grady, Thomas there. We'll have to see, hopefully it does not, intensify there further, but it is a possibility. We'll just have to watch the overall trends there. Just trying to be here for you the best we can. Just watching everything on the Doppler. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the Doppler radar perspective right now. Again, continue to track things. Again, just looking through all the different data points. Appreciate the viewership. See some of our different rainfall totals there. The estimates by the radar anyway. We'll watch this toward Cairo. There's some wind enhancement here west of Ocklackney around the acreage area. So we'll watch it. That overall meteorological progression, trying to get south there a little bit. Not overwhelming, but we'll pay attention to it. Again, just seeing the slow movement here, this heavy rainfall. Seems like those rates are falling off some, but still pretty heavy around Merrillville, Dillon, Patton, Five Forks there. So we'll just watch the overall progression with this. We'll go ahead and kind of reorganize this view here. Definitely seeing the stuff, it looks like a little higher back toward the west now, maybe, from what I can kind of gather. I know it might be hard for you guys to see this here with the overall view, but it looks like maybe possibly some of that stuff back west a little bit taller here. We kind of loop this around. I mean, you can see how this is kind of faded. That's still staying up some. Granted, it's not overwhelming, so hopefully that means we won't have to deal with severe thunderstorm mornings here, in just a few moments, really. I mean, it's 9 o'clock. I mean, this one should go away here at 9 unless they extend it, which would be great news. And you see that kind of fade off the screen now, the yellow box, which is great, but at least for a few more moments, we'll watch this flash flood warning. We'll keep the stream going, but I'll probably wrap soon if this starts to keep us progressing up. It seems like it's doing a little bit better, in terms of obvious progression than what we had in Lowndes earlier on. That flash flood warning to me is getting around 6 inches, which is not good at all, but looks like a significant advisory down, to the south here instead, as we kind of watch things, with the overall forward progression. So, Weather Service saying gusts to about 40 miles an hour there possible. This frequent cloudy guard lightning occurring with a storm. Lightning can strike 10 miles away from a thunderstorm, so seek safe shelter inside a building or vehicle. Moving south at 10 miles an hour. I'm sure they put the vehicle part in there. I mean, for football games, there may even be sometimes the middle schools maybe have games earlier on in the week. So, obviously, if you can't get into a sturdy structure from the lightning, at least you just got to get away from those metal bleachers and things like that. So, keep that in mind here as we're looking at things. Again, maybe another repeat, Unfortunately, if storms on Friday night, we'll see. It's a little iffy in some ways because we have to look here and, kind of hope maybe we'll get things to stabilize during the day, after we get storms earlier on. So we'll just have to see. It's a possibility it sets up like that, or we could have, issues. And Saturday we'll be watching for the FSU game. Friday night we're also watching for the Jaguars preseason home game there against the Tampa Bay squad that are coming, up there from West Central Florida area. But again, I'm just trying to give you guys the latest here. A heavy rain, still continuing Dillon, Patton, Five Forks area there. But it seems to at least have some obvious progression southward. But some of these areas picking up quite a bit of rain in here. We'll show you some of these estimates on radar, 3-4 inches. And you're seeing some of these areas kind of get some of that heavier rain now on Summerhill Road, it would seem, give or take. So we're watching that progressing here for you. Again, no severe thunderstorm warnings anymore, but the flash flood warning, that new flash flood warning with heavy rain active in it. So we're still watching that. We're still tracking that here for you. Just trying to keep you up to date. Red indicated flash flood warning there. Same with the one to the east. Granted, the heavy rain is slacked off in there, a while ago, really. So you see Dillon, Patton, Merrillville, Five Forks. Flash flood warning continues there until 11:45. Just got to be really careful here at night because flash flooding can be especially dangerous at night. So, I'm going to keep watching trends here toward Thomas County, toward Brooks County in our area there. We're just trying to give you guys the very latest here on the meteorological progression. Just appreciate the viewership here. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Appreciate everybody trusting me. Just gonna keep on watching these overall trends. We had the flash flood warning. We had a severe thunderstorm warning and another flash flood warning. We still have the 2 flash flood warnings. The one not, necessarily where we're getting the active rain in, and the other one we are, but there's a situation. We'll probably go back to our radar stream very soon, and I did not mean to. I keep hitting the wrong thing there. I apologize. We're not in alert mode or anything like that. But again, let's go ahead and we'll move that, and again, just appreciate everybody tuning in, trusting me here. I mean, you're on for a while, your hands, your arms get a little tired, but trying to move things around here. But you kind of get the idea. I just appreciate everybody tuning in. It's been a long summer with storms. I mean, as active as I've ever seen it. I've been, doing cloud weather since 2019 here. Granted, we've had the upgrade and everything. I mean, really, the summer storm tracking since 2020 with coverage. We weren't going on for maybe everything all the time. With some of that went on for all the tornado warning storms, but not every single or like 99% of these alerts. We weren't going on maybe for 99% of them. Then posting about them all and going on for a lot of them, but still, that's just it's a thunderstorm warning number. I posted it the other day, the highest Tallahassee's had in August here. In office history, it would seem like Jacksonville has been making a run at their record as well for most ever in August. July was very active, and June started out kind of cool and quiet there for about a week or so, and then we've been really going ever since here the last 2.5 months. But soon enough, we should start to see a switch in the pattern. Granted, 7 days not really showing it too much here yet, but as we get toward Labor Day, hopefully, things will shift just, based on climatology more than anything here. We should eventually start to see a shift, but this doesn't look that fun right now here. As we have these higher rain chances, still pretty hot. Some of those heat index values getting in triple digits, and at peak heating, if we don't get the storm accident in there, you got to really be careful. I mean, even if you don't get the triple digit heat index at the point, still can be dangerous. You can't be leaving a kid, obviously, or an animal in the back seat, a car with the air conditioning off there at all, because that can turn tragic very rapidly. So, again, just got to be very mindful here of the overall meteorological storyline. So, you see this progressing. You see Thomasville under an advisory into our town now. Some heavy rain there. I know you guys watching maybe from Thomasville. It hadn't been too bad there, but we're starting to get heavy rain there on Thomasville, Fletcherville there, Lee Street, Madison Street, Broad Street, Remington Avenue there, Love Street there, Sly Street, Orchid Street there. So, again, just trying to give you guys the very latest Orchid Lane or Orchard Lane maybe. In terms of that pronunciation. But you see Dunedin Drive there, giving you guys the very latest there on the weather information. But okay, this is kind of looking like a situation where the heaviest rain, there's still some of it, but it's a small part of the box. And let's watch the progression here. You see, it seems like it's going south, maybe even, south-southwest a little bit. So it's making movement. It's moving here out of the polygon. At least there's some forward movement. So this heavy rain here, that's a 15-minute loop. I mean, let's go back 30. Let's go back 30 here. I mean, at least we're not seeing all that constant lightning in there. There's still some, but it's definitely weakening overall. So we've given you the heads up. Still be very careful. Still, some of these roads, the water levels could get a little higher before they, start to improve. So don't lay your guard down, but we're going to keep the stream going. But I'm going to wrap up the talking for now. But I'll pop back in if I need to. We get some more alerts here. See, we got to watch out here to the west a little bit. Watching out toward the west there a little bit. Making sure nothing ramps up. Watching some of the rainfall risk out there a little. Let's pull up our flash flooding risk out there. So it's really just in this zone here, the high risk of that. As we're looking at things overall. So again, just trying to keep you up to date. I'm just gonna, be back if it's warranted, but we have the 2 flash flood warnings continuing. This one here to 11:45. We'll leave things running here, and if I need to pop back in with more commentary of the situation, I will. But we'll just kind of leave it running for now. I think it'd be the best course of action. Move this over just a little bit here, really, as we kind of watch the overall situation. So. That's kind of it for right now. But if I need to pop back in, I will. I just appreciate everybody's viewership here. I'm going to set questions, comments one more time. Make sure we're not missing anything as we look here at the overall scenario. Again, just really appreciate everybody, watching. I'm just trying to kind of center things around. I want to make sure we're getting as much of our area in here as possible here, because we're kind of, this is on the northern fringe anyway, so it makes it a little tricky. I have to include some of our area that's, some of the area that's not in our area. Some other zone on the map that's not an area, I should say. But again, just having to give you guys the very latest, trying to keep you guys safe and informed here on the overall meteorological scenario. So again, I'm going to take questions, comments. We have 2 flash flood warnings still, 1 to 9:45 toward Hahira. The rain rates are really just almost stopped there, but the roads could still be dangerous, especially here at night. Flash flooding is especially dangerous at night. Just turn around, don't drown when encountering flooded roads. And then we have Brooks and Thomas to 11:45 as well. Got to be careful in northern parts of Grady because they've seen some spots have seen of over an inch in the last hour there in northern Grady, almost 2 inches in northwest Grady. So, but in the word Thomas, some rates, so and some total showing closer to 3 inches in the last hour, which is a cause for concern. So, again, just trying to keep you up to date on everything. Just make sure I don't miss any questions, comments. Again, had some issues with some of those not coming through earlier on, but, on the one mode, but you could see them on YouTube, but I couldn't see them on my one end here, my aggregate, mode of all the different platforms. I apologize for that, but just really appreciate everybody tuning in, trusting me here on this Tuesday evening. It's August 25th, 2026. Just going between all the different modes here. Just trying to be here for you the best we can. Trying to be here for you the best we can. Just trying to give you the updates here. If I need to pop back in, I will. We're just going to leave the radar running for now. I really appreciate your trust in me. I'm meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center. Make sure if you haven't already subscribed, the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you see more of my content. Hit the like button. In general, that'll allow, maybe more folks to see the coverage here as we're seeing the overall, situations evolve. I mean, we still are in hurricane season, and you never know what could happen there, but then we really have to watch toward the fall, the winter, the spring, maybe for quite a few severe weather systems, maybe tornado threats, not immediate, but just, in the months to come. We'll be watching those and covering those here, so make sure you subscribe, hit that like button because you'll be able to see more of my coverage. Other folks will be able to see more as it maybe pops up for them and have more people informed here about different severe weather dangers. It's very, important. It's all free. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button there. So, just trying to give you guys the latest here. Just trying to keep you guys up to date here in the Weather Center. I really appreciate your trust in me. Just try to enjoy things the best you can here. I'll be back as conditions warn if conditions warn, but I'll leave the radar streaming for now here. We still have those 2 flash flood warnings, those darker green polygons remaining in effect here for portions of the area, one for parts of Lowndes and the higher area, another for parts of Thomas, and 4 parts of Brooks there as we're looking at some of that meteorological progression. Just stay safe out there. Again, you just really want to try to enjoy things the best you can.